So welcome to another Something New Conversations with Legends series. And in this case, our resident legend is Claude Silver. So I am incredibly excited to have everybody meet her if you haven't met her already. And we will learn an awful lot. I know that for sure. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. For those of you who have never been on, the magic behind these is that they're super interactive, designed that way. So we don't want this to be me asking Claude questions or, you know, just a big monologue. We want it to be super interactive. So when we get to the point where we're open for questions, you can just ask your question directly to Claude, and you can raise your hand or just be the loudest one on the call, and you're up. I'll introduce you and we'll go from there. So I'm incredibly excited to have Claude. I think I was thinking about this, and I think Claude is best described really by words rather than titles, even though she's got a kick-ass title. She's got one of the best titles out there. But it's really more than just titles and awards, which she's got a shelf full of those. You know, Claude she's kind, she's wise, she's empathetic, she's got heart, she's got hustle, she's courageous, she's inspiring, she's passionate. She's just an amazing person. So we're all blessed to spend some time with her today. For those of you who may not know, she's the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia. So she works for 1,000 people throughout the world. She's the number 2 to a guy you've probably never heard of, Gary Vaynerchuk. She's an amazing person. She's a mom to Shalom, who may make an appearance later. I'd say she's a surrogate mom to all of us and thousands of people all over the world. She's just an incredible person. I had the really good fortune of her writing a chapter in Standing O Encore. So if you go to page 153, you will learn about Nana, AKA Heart. And if you don't have a tear in your eye when you finish that chapter, I will be shocked. So I'm super excited to introduce Claude. I do have a special announcement. So COVID has thrown a huge wrench in the works. This is many, many, many moons ago. Our team was thinking, you know, we want to celebrate people over everything. It's not just a motto to us. It's really kind of, that's our company DNA. And so we were brainstorming and we said, how do we really highlight people that are really embody what people over everything is all about? So we commissioned a company called Simon Pierce. They're the #1 glass blowing company in the country. We commissioned them to come up with the first ever People Over Everything award. So the first award ever goes to Claude Silver. And Claude, I'm holding this ransom because I need a hug.
Yes.
So I'm not going to send it in the mail. Plus it weighs about 20 pounds.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to wait until I can get to New York and get a famous Claude Silver hug.
Got it.
So I'm super excited.
Thank you.
Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Claude. One of the questions that I have for Claude, and Claude, you don't have to answer this right away, but you know, we're a company at Something New. We're obsessed with trying to get leaders to focus on their people first. And I think it's interesting. We're seeing a little bit of a shift. A lot of that is because of what you and Gary are doing. But I still think there's just an incredibly long way to go. I don't know if it's, you know, it's glorifying maybe the Steve Jobs of the world, where people think the ends justify the means, not necessarily a people first guy, obviously a genius, but you know, that's something that we're passionate about. We talk about it all the time. Employees are, you know, your number one, labor is your number one expense. It's also the number one thing that will either make you successful or make you fail. Yet leaders seem to lack the ability to grasp that it's all about people. So at some point, I'd love for you to talk about that. If you could just introduce yourself, and then, you know, we're going to open it up for questions, but we're excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really, I'm so touched, and the fact that you brought up my Nana and the beautiful award. So thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I know a lot of names and faces, and thank you. My name's Claude Silver. Scott's already really done a great introduction to me. I'm honored to be here. I do have the best title in showbiz for sure. What I can say is, you know, the title is the cherry on top. It's the most amazing thing to have a title that actually makes sense for the person I've been for 50 years. And for that, I'm very, very, very grateful to Gary and his creativity to put those three words together. Once upon a time, I was at VaynerMedia. I worked there for 16 months before this title. And on my year anniversary there, I actually let him know that I was done with advertising. I had been working in the world of advertising and, you know, coming up with ways to sell you shampoo and soap and gas and toilet paper and, you know, Tampax, whatever you need, really. And I just said I was done. And he said, what do you want to do? Which is his famous question, really. And I said, I only care about the heartbeat of this place. I care about the people. And so 6 months later, I actually resigned from the company. And when he and I had breakfast a few months later, he said, that's it, you're going to come back as the chief heart officer. And he heard what I had said. I only care about the heartbeat of this place. And he and I, by that time, had such a symbiotic relationship. He understood that I could scale him, which is a real big honor. So I guess that's the introduction for me right now. Thank you.
I love it. So, you know, I'm sure people have a ton of questions. You know, Claude talks about so many interesting things, whether it's having courageous conversations, naming your fears, which I love. There's just so much wisdom that she can share that can make us all better leaders, make us better parents, make us better friends, make us better spouses. So I'm gonna really open it up. Claude, one thing that I admire tremendously about her is she's just a total open book. And she just makes you feel so comfortable. So I'm pretty sure there's no question that's off limits. We're going through unprecedented times, and Claude is helping to guide a company of 1,000 people worldwide through tough, rough waters. So as leaders, who's got a question for Claude? Is that you,
Hey,
John?
Claude. Yeah, John McCaskill here. Great to see you. Thanks. You were on the Veterans Path podcast several months back, and we discussed your journey on Outward Bound and how that was kind of a defining moment for you. Could you share that with the crew? I mean, you shared it on the podcast, but I think it's so profound how that was such a big defining moment in your life. I'd love for the rest of the audience to hear.
Sure will, yeah. And congrats to you, John, on your retirement. Yeah, so I was 19 years old, and I was really going nowhere fast. I had made some really remarkably terrible decisions in my life, whether or not that was with boys, with drugs, just not having options for myself. And I took myself out of school. I was at Rollins College. I was playing tennis there. And after my sophomore year, I just said, that's it. I can't, this isn't for me. School isn't for me. I was really lost, quite frankly. And I said to my parents, I need to find the longest outward bound or NOLS course that I could possibly find, because I needed to get my ass kicked. And I really actually said, I need my ass kicked. So thankfully, I knew that. I knew that I was going nowhere fast. And wouldn't you know, there was a 93-day wilderness leadership course happening starting maybe in 3 months from then. It was in the Colorado Rockies. And then we went to the Canyonlands in Utah and Moab, the most beautiful places in the world, rafted the Colorado, and then ended up in Joshua Tree. It was 93 days. I was the only young woman at that time. I was 19. I was with 8 other young men. So that was a trip in itself. We all carried 80 pounds on our back. Maybe they carried 90, but I definitely carried 80. All 5'3" of me. And it was hell for the first 3 weeks, I would say. We would, in the Colorado Rockies, I mean, you're already in, it was September, so there's a ton of snow. I was already, we were climbing the 11, 12, 13,000 foot peaks. And I was really just a negative person. My inner voice was so horrendous. You wouldn't believe it if I told you now, right? But I was climbing and traversing this terrain. And in my head, I was singing over and over and over, 9 Inch Nails, Head Like a Hole, Black as Your Soul, I'd Rather Die Than whatever the other line is. They're like on repeat, just like pounding myself, crying as I was climbing up this hill one late at night. I was way in the back, and this counselor came up to me. We had 2 wilderness guides with us for a good portion of the trip. And this was like day 4. So, I mean, I was, a wee thing at that point. And she said, what's going on? And I told her, I don't know, probably hated myself or something if I'm singing that song on repeat. And she said it very firmly, you better get another song in your head real quick. I don't know what song I got in my head eventually, but I did. On that leg of the trip, so every 18 days you came out of the wilderness and you got a warm shower and got to get your mail. It was snail mail time, and I put some quarters in the phone and call your parents. And on the tail end of that 18-day leg, I ended up getting Giardia, which was phenomenal, as you can only imagine. It was just the shits, and no pun intended. And I was like, I was praying to break my leg. I was like praying to just get out of this place, It wasn't a rehab for me, but it felt like it. I put myself in there to get rehabilitated and to become a whole person. And I will say, on day 19, I was in my hotel room in Leadville, Colorado. We all were doing our, getting clean, washing our hair and whatnot. And I came out of the shower. My hair was in one of those, things that you wrap it in when you have long hair and it's wet. And I turned on the TV, and it was the Subway Series, World Series. It was the A's and the San Francisco Giants. So 1989. And as I was watching the TV, I saw this incredible tremble. Well, the earthquake came in as I was watching that TV live, and you just saw people crumbling to the ground. And here I was, and I thought to myself, something happened in that moment where I thought, gosh, I have been so secluded and supported by the wilderness and by these 9 people I was with. And here is life, and people are hurting, and I'm sitting here, wishing I broke my leg. And something just snapped in me in that moment. And from that day on, I went back into the woods, and I really I was hell bent on becoming a leader. I was hell bent on really understanding that I needed to get my act together and quickly, not for me, but for the world. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help heal this world. And that was the first time I really got a true taste of my purpose. And I tell you, I ended that 93-day course on a high. By that time I had a lot of confidence. I had led the 8 guys down a class 5 in the Colorado River, and just a lot of things that really brought me more confidence and joy and reminded me that I'm just a tiny little cog, but if my little tiny cog can work in service of others, then other people can do the same. And so, John, that's really the story. I came out of that a much happier person and a wholer person. That's not to say I didn't stumble after that into other things. I did. But I had a very strong pilot light coming out of that. So thank you.
I love it. Who else has a question for Claude?
Claude, Diane Ristow here. I work with Scott and the Something New team. Work a lot with clients just in terms of engaging their team members, their employees. What would you say is maybe your top 1 or 2 suggestions for how to really engage and have a high performing or highly invested team?
Yeah, thanks. Nice to meet you, Diane.
Yeah.
My first trick every single time I get asked that question is listening. So that's the first thing I always say, and listening to understand and listening to hear and listening, active listening. So you're not ready to pounce on someone, but you're listening with as much non-judgment as you possibly can, and empathy, and the idea that, what this person is going to tell you is going to give you data, is going to give you information that most likely is going to be not only good for them, but good for the entire group, the holistic group. So that's the first thing. The other thing will always be action. So for me, leadership is not only listening to people and taking in information and being their person, but it's also being in action. And so what is it that I can do to further their cause or to further the team's cause? If I can help them network, if I can give them the training and development, if I can give them the ear, the understanding, if I can show them that they matter, that they're valued, these types of things. And all of those things really take action. Whether or not I'm showing someone that they're valued, even if I do that just by writing a card, that's action, or by elevating them. So something I do quite a lot is internally is I meet with people all day long, and as I'm meeting with them and I'm listening, I'm thinking, gosh, I bet you this person has never been in front of Gary before. And it's important for me to get them in front of Gary because that's the kind of company we are. We're very high touch. We're owned by one individual. But when you get in front of him, all of a sudden he can see other possibilities for you, because everyone wants to grow, develop, and be promoted in some way, shape, or form. So that's, helping someone get visibility. And yesterday, for example, he had 40 one-on-ones with people that in the last 2 weeks I had just peppered on his calendar. And then I write little notes to his admins on what that meeting is about. But so listening and then taking action. And in fact, that's exactly what he does in those meetings. So at the end of yesterday, I met with him and I said, how are the one-on-ones? Is there anything you want me to do from any of those? So how can I then take the ball and run with it in any which way? So there's so many more, ideas that I would offer, but those are the 2 that I think are extremely important. And, for me, I might be a very different person. I want to understand people's pain. That's who I am. I want to understand people's pain. Your pain is not much different from my pain, is not much different from his pain or her pain. I mean, we all know it's a human condition, but I really want to understand what the threads are that sew us all together, and then find solutions together. And those solutions are always going to be based around, for me, love and empathy and gratitude and all the other EQ traits. So anything I do is always going to be, the underbelly of that is, how can I get this person, how can I help them unlock and get from A to B to C to F to Z?
I love it. So Mayan Gordon, who is my new friend as of yesterday, I know she has a question. She's remarkable. I think people think sometimes relationships take a long time to develop, and in some cases that's true, in some cases that's not true. I saw something that she posted on LinkedIn, and I said, that person's heart aligns with mine. We've got to jump on a call. We jumped on a call yesterday, and she's remarkable. She's a TikTok influencer. She's got 2-point-something million followers on TikTok. On LinkedIn, she went in 1 year from 0 to 28,000. She owns a glass blowing company. She owns a media company. So she's remarkable. So we're like 24 hours into our friendship. So I
best friends for life, Scott. Hi, Claude. Really nice to meet you. This is kind of to piggyback off of the question that was just asked. How much does environment in which you're asking these questions to get, you know, the listening and get the feedback from your people and the people that you care about, how much have you noticed that matters or doesn't matter? Or is it really kind of more based off just of the tone of how you're speaking with them?
You know, it's a great question, especially now that we're all virtual and we're all looking at each other on these screens. And so, you know, to get your essence and your vibe and to feel your texture is very different now than it would be if we were sitting together, you know, and we could kind of just like feel each other's energy. So you have to work, I think as a leader, you have to work that much more to lean in and listen and to pick up on any kind of cues that I would normally be able to pick up so easily just by having you here and having a cup of tea together, right? So I do think the environment matters, and I don't think we have a choice right now, which means that it's important, I feel that it's important to absolutely be much more intentional about my attention because as we all know, whatever you put your attention into, whether or not it's health and wellness or whether or not it's another person, that grows. So the environment, yes, and you know, the tone, you seeing that I'm looking right at you or I'm looking right at your square. I don't know if you can see I'm looking at you. But there's something kind of magical about Zoom, quite frankly, on these calls, is that we all are actually equal. Everyone takes the same inch and a half or something. And I do think in some ways that normalizes it. But also on these calls, you know, you're inviting me into your room. You have a beautiful background. I'm in my in-laws' house and she likes to collect roosters. I mean, you know, there's all this extra attention that we need to put into what is seen and unseen, what is said and unsaid now that we're virtual.
Thank you so much.
So I know we're going to go Steve Noodleberg, Jason Eckert, and Megan Riley in that order. Okay. Steve, you're on mute.
How about that? That better?
Very good.
Claude, first of all, great to see you. I've been fortunate to have a couple of amazing conversations with you in person and online. One of the fascinating things I took away that I hope you can comment on is that in most corporate cultures and most business cultures, if somebody doesn't work out, they leave as an adversary. And one of the things you talk about is it's not their fault that they don't fit sometimes. They could fit somewhere else. And you do an amazing job of helping people stick to their journey, even if it's not with Vayner or Vayner. So I was hoping you could comment on it because I don't know any company doing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. It's great to see you. We're very different in that aspect. You know, one of the things that Gary has always said is he wants to keep people in the ecosystem of Vayner forever and ever and ever. Well, there's so many whys to that, right? Because, you know, you may not work out at VaynerMedia for a variety of reasons. Maybe, you know, maybe you're just better suited at a corporate company, or maybe you're better suited at a company where you, back in the day, could work at home all day, whatever it is. If we help network you to that next job, or network you so you meet 3 other people, and one day you end up being the CMO of Bazooka Gum, that's a real win for us.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So when people don't work out, again, for a variety of reasons, performance, economics, COVID, you name it, right? Restructuring. We will always, before I know or my team knows we're going to go into that conversation with Steve or Laura or Sam or Judy or whomever, we know you enough and we know what your interests are because we spent time with you. So you're really interested in creating videos, or you're really interested in social, or you're interested in the next big innovation. Well, we know enough people at TikTok. Of course, we're going to introduce you to someone at TikTok. We can't promise you a job, but we can absolutely connect that dot because of Gary's ecosystem, because of who I know, whatever. So we're always going to tee you up, and then you're going to get that job at TikTok. And then guess what's going to happen? When it's time that TikTok is going to pitch for a creative agency, who do you think they're going to add to that roster? Vayner. So what is, look, it is a small little world. It's a big world, small world.
Yep.
But the most important thing is like the karmic wheel. It's just doing good. It's doing the right thing. I'm literally changing your life today. I'm sorry, you will not have another paycheck. Changing your life. The least I could do is help set you up for that next life.
What a great philosophy. So many companies send people out as their adversary.
Yeah.
And you have enemies out there as opposed to the way you guys are doing it. So kudos to you for all of that good stuff.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to see you.
Jason, you are up.
Hey, Claude. Thanks for getting on. Enjoyed your part in the Standing O. And Nana was actually my favorite grandparent and really close. So really resonated there. But so my wife is very similar to you in nature as far as very selfless, caring, listening. She actually became a dream manager, which is a lot of kind of what you're talking about, working for a company to help people fulfill their dreams, whether it's with that company or not. So it all resonates, but I know, and what she does and what you do, talking with people on a regular basis and hearing, you're not necessarily their guidance counselor, but sometimes that happens, right? You're hearing their challenges, their issues, you're having to compartmentalize all that. So for those people that aren't as, that are a little more selfish than you guys, right? And maybe have trouble dealing with that. I guess my question is, how do you take all that where you feel like you want to solve, kind of be able to compartmentalize it and mentally stay sharp and in that moment to be able to always help those people?
Yeah, I love the question, and it's so valid. I think especially today and tomorrow, as we are moving into more heart-based leadership, we're all going to need to practice these muscles of whether or not you want to call it compartmentalization or just holding space and neutralizing it. For me, it is important that I empty my bucket. I'm not great at it. The things that I do to, I make sure that I am doing something at the end of the day that is going to feed me. And a lot of times, no pun intended, that is actually cooking, because I just get to zone out.
Got it.
I have a 22-month-old, so that occupies a lot of my time. I try to be as active as I can. I listen to music. But, most importantly, I think what we want to understand is that empathy doesn't mean taking on your emotions as a sponge. That is not what guidance counselors, therapists, me, that's not what leaders do. I mean, that's only going to zap our energy. So how can I take take it? Literally, I hold it. It's neutral here. It doesn't mean anything to me. It means something to me that you're hurting or whatever, and then I am able to just dump it and move on to the next because it hasn't infiltrated, or I don't know if that's the right word. It's not that I don't care, but I know that my job is not to be a sponge, because I'm no good to you if I'm a sponge. I'm no good to you if I get as in it as you are. I have to be able to see, the forest through the trees and the horizon, because that's what you need me to do. So it is a muscle. Self-awareness is, 101 there. You got to figure out who you are. And if look, I used to be a real big sponge in my life. That didn't really do any good, because I thought I could fix everyone, great codependent. Feelers like me oftentimes are codependent. And then we got to check ourselves, wreck ourselves, and then understand, like, okay, look, Serenity Prayer 101, I can't change anyone other than myself. So the reminders that you have to, that you want to just play in your head rather than 9 Inch Nails. You want to be playing some like 50 mantras in your head over and over again. It's a great question, Jason.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. I'll flip it over to Megan Riley, who hopefully is voice texting while she's driving.
I pulled over. I'm like, hey, Claude. I'm like, I'm just so excited to get to see you and be here. So I pulled over. All my focus is here. Jason, I love that question, by the way. I think that's something I've wondered about, Claude. Like, how do you manage that? And so how you explain that, Claude, makes perfect sense. My question for you is kind of personal, as far as how your life has changed with Shalom, and how that has impacted how you lead other people. Have you felt a shift in how you, whether that's like lead parents or other people, or just how that's kind of impacted your life? I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, it's a great question, Megan. And for someone who thought they were quite empathetic prior to kids, I didn't know anything. I thought, yes, of course I understand working parents. Yeah, okay, sure. I had no idea what the emotional pull would be on a day-to-day basis, what the juggle was like, what the guilt was like, what the frustration. I mean, every emotion in the spectrum is something that I feel like in 22 months I have gone in and out of several different times. Sometimes I stay there a long time because I have my own challenges of like lifting myself up and not feeling so guilty that even though we're all working from home, I'm still working, So what it's done at work is it's allowed me to set up a parent Slack channel and be more involved with the parenting community resource group, and just jamming with them and getting them more resources and making sure that we all have some tips for online learning, and bringing in, music classes, just like I would bring in meditation for us adults. So it has really allowed me to all of a sudden be like, oh gosh, I get it. Yes, you definitely need to go offline 3 times a day or whatever. Just let us know when you're going off. So it has definitely, it's increased my heart tenfold. It's allowed me to understand just responsibility and time management in a different way. And is there time management? Probably not, but I used to talk a bit about a work-life blend, and now it's just all, it's all a smorgasbord here. So, but I get it more than I ever did. And I have a lot to learn also,
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Brianne Morgan, I know that you had a question. So Brianne is new to us, working out of LA. So we're super excited to have Brianne on board. And I think she's got a question.
I do. I think you may have kind of answered it already, Claude, but it's so nice to meet everyone. And Claude, it's just an honor to be here and listen to you speak. It's just gems everywhere. So I guess what I was going to ask, and this is broad, and I'm sure that you've had many of these instances, but if you could maybe just talk about maybe one of the greatest lessons, a learning lesson, something you just realized in dealing with employees, helping them, stay engaged and active and happy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here going, oh my God.
So many, right?
Also, with George Floyd and the protests and Black Lives Matter movement, like life will never be the same. I think our working life will never, my working life will never be the same from then on out, from today on out. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have learned, and it's been incredibly humbling, is I was very, very proud and strong in conviction to say that we want to create a culture that is based on psychological safety. Yes, I still say that is based on belonging. I still say that, and bravery, and a culture where you can feel like you can bring yourself to work. I will never say whole selves to work again, as long as I live, until I am convinced that is what our Black and brown communities are doing. It has been incredibly humbling to talk to our diverse population and find out that they never really could. They never did. They never really thought, because it's just very different. It's very different for someone that doesn't have white skin every single day. So, you know, I'm gay, but you might not know that, and my skin color is still white. And it's a very different type of diversity. So, you know, I get chills talking about it, because it's something that we have, you know, we have a lot of work to do. We all have a lot of work to do on it. And it's the only thing I'm concentrating on right now, is how do we bring in enough education and empathy, but more than anything, how are we listening now? You know, are we checking our biases, like all that training that I'm bringing in? So that has been, to be extremely transparent, that's been the biggest lesson I probably have learned in my career in a very long time. Yeah.
That's amazing, and thank you for being so transparent. Yes, that would be definitely among one of the greatest lessons ever. So thank you for taking a lead in doing that.
Appreciate it.
I think I saw Joy McAdams had a question.
Yes, I do. I'm here, and thank you, Claude, so much for taking the time with us today. I have a question, but before I start, I gotta let you know my little boss babe is here with me.
The boss babe.
We have a podcast, Raising a Boss Babe, and it's just a way of, she's the youngest of 5, and how to bring up a strong-willed, you know, woman. And so that's kind of what it's all about. So of course I'm letting her listen in on this call today. But anyway, my question, I build private medical practices, you know, from the inside out, you know, from all the relationships, building inside and outside. You know, I have all different types of specialties, but they're all private practices. I believe they're necessary for for a healthy ecosystem for patient care, because the way they treat patients is a lot different than the big healthcare system. But anyway, my question is, one of the biggest things I run into, because I do a lot of internal work too with the relationships within the practice, is the physicians, a lot of time, you know, you run into really big egos. And it's hard for them sometimes, you know, because they have their medical degree. I mean, you know, they're up there, they're in a lot of their minds, they're on a whole different level than the front desk girl who's answering the phone, who, you know, the MA who's taking the temperature and doing all the prep work. And I'm sure, you know, within the corporate world, on different levels, you face that same type of conflict. How do you bring those people down a notch so that they really show that gratefulness that's needed to all those other people that are working under them? Because I mean, COVID actually has helped with this a little bit, because all of a sudden it showed that without all these staff under them, there's no way they could have continued to do their jobs. But still, it's a struggle. You know, it's a struggle to break down those egos and have them have gratitude. What do you do as the, you know, Chief Heart Officer to kind of help that when you run into people like that?
Thank you, Joy. It is a really great question. I have, you know, I work in such a utopia sometimes because of who my boss
Gary is. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that everyone is like that. And so one of the things I say, if I didn't work for Gary, and in other companies that I've worked for where I believe the culture is just off kilter a bit, is we need to show the people at the top, whether or not it's through data, whether or not it's through qualitative measures such as surveys, and I just mean like qual surveys. I believe that, look, data doesn't lie. I'm not a big data junkie, but data doesn't lie. We know that engagement can be a lot higher than it is in the workplaces, and most of the time that's due to leadership, that's due to people not getting the growth and development, that's due to people feeling like they're micromanaged all day and that they don't have the autonomy, you know, because people are gonna thrive when they are getting feedback that is as objective as possible, and that they're able to be self-directed in their own careers and their own day-to-day. So I know a lot of leaders don't think like that. And so what I suggest is that they do either an all hands where there's Q&A and they can listen to what their staff is asking them and really hopefully take note of the questions. They can be more transparent with their communication going forward, going out to the company. Surveys would absolutely help, you know, and I'm not talking about a strict survey, but retention is super important, regardless of the fact that people are being furloughed, people have lost their jobs. As the economy gets stronger, the job market is going to be real fertile. And so do they want to hang on to the person at the front desk, or do they want to go train someone else and have to pay 3 times as much, or, all that stuff?
Right.
So how do we get leaders to really understand that their people matter? And I believe that data is one of the drivers there. I really do. If you don't have a CEO like I do, or if you don't work with Scott, like if you don't really get that it is people over profit, even if it's 1%, 49%, that's just where it's at. And people are soon enough, people are going to, I believe, going to be able to have their opportunities to go ahead and job jump as the economy gets stronger when we when we come out of this. So does the company want to progress? If they do, then they gotta get with it.
Right. No, thank you. That's great. And that's been a new concept, was just teaching that Business 101, that it's all about relationships. And that's what I do when I go in and turn a practice around, is remind them all these referrals are what's sending you business. And healthcare is a big area that needs so much help, just with marketing, business minded. I mean, it's been challenging, but very rewarding. So thank you. That was great advice.
Thank you.
So we've got about 15 more minutes, and I think we're setting a record for questions, which is a testament to Claude. So I think we've got Chris, Darren, and Linda. We're going to see if we can squeeze those into 15 minutes.
Sure. Claude, thank you very much. And what you said about the surveys, I'll just reiterate. I think I was a young CEO, and results of a 360-degree review dropped an anvil on my head, from a learning perspective. So I would say that they are very powerful. And along those lines of questions, tools for culture, other tools that you've used either for fixing or just maintaining?
Well, we're a very high touch culture. So that means a lot of people on people. But the tools that we use, we don't have, when we're in the office, we don't have a ping pong table or foosball table, but we do have a lot of culture jams, culture jam sessions. And even now that we're virtual, I'll get 20 people on a jam session or 12 people on a jam session. It'll be very informal. It'll be a lot of AMA. So ask me anythings, which were really important, as long as the person that you're asking is going to be transparent and, as vulnerable as they can be and generous with their time and their energy. So that's really important. We do offer the normal, meditation and all of that stuff that other companies are doing, because there's a lot of anxiety in the water right now. And there was a lot of anxiety before COVID hit also. So mental health is something that we really absolutely lean in on. Now more than ever, as I was just saying, what we'll always now be leaning in on is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and in very deep ways. One of the things that we've done at work that I believe everyone obviously has a story to tell, and I really want to empower people to tell their stories. So we've set up panels where people of all different stages in their careers in the same department will chat on Zoom, and we did this in the office, and you can ask them anything too. Usually I moderate it. It's a way to just get people to know and acknowledge one another that might not be in the same office. So Zoom has allowed us to connect different offices, locations, and different departments, even in the New York offices. So those are some of the ways that we do it. We don't have necessarily like tools per se. I mean, we don't, we use Donut, which attaches to Slack, and you can do like little coffee chats with random people, that kind of stuff. But it is very high touch, what we're doing still. And it does work. It works for us, thankfully.
Darren.
Hey, Claude, Scott, thank you guys so much. So off topic a little bit here. How's the wakeboarding going, Claude?
Gosh, I love the question. It hasn't yet. And I just saw people outside yesterday doing some serious flips. So if I could just get some more air, I would be stoked. I'm at the lake right now, and I thank you for the question because I'm jonesing.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold you accountable to it, but I did have a serious question really quick too. So one thing that you and Gary and the entire leadership team do at Vayner is looping in multiple generations for conversations throughout the workplace. So can you just talk to us on how you guys do that? Because I think in years past we've seen 30s hang out with 30s and 40s hang out with 40s and 50s and beyond. So talk to us a little bit about how you guys are changing the game there.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. It's really all about like relational fluency. If you think about it, you know, how are you relating to people in multiple generations, and how are we offering up the ability to be even that much more empathetic? So like a boomer is going to look at a millennial, it's just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. You are so entitled. You know what I mean? And a millennial might look at me, a Gen Xer, and just be like, you know, yeah, you dork, you know, or whatever. Like, yeah. So you made it. I don't know, you know. But it really does come down to human communication. I mean, communication is human, but and getting people together in ways which we can learn from one another. And when we do like these jam sessions, people know what the actual end goal is, even though they're informal. When I put it out on Slack or when I invite people, I will always tell them it is to create connection. It is to further our culture of belonging and connection, belonging and bravery. So I'm very intentional, and we are very intentional about these things. You know, but I mean, we're humans, and so it's not always great. It's not always magical. There aren't, you know, rainbows every single day. We're still a business. We need to create profit and revenue, and so we need to make sure that the cogs are greased enough with communication and with some kind of like mandate that we will get through this to get on the other side, because at the end of the day we have deliverables. So we, as much as I talk about EQ and all of the things that I believe are extremely needed to run a successful and happy business, we always have to keep our eye on that prize too. And so, you know, we can't just all you know, as the Brits say, just whinge all day.
Right.
Relational fluency is super important, and the understanding that we're all coming from different places, but we want the end goal.
Yeah. Thank you for leading by example there. We love following you guys.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Darren. Linda McGuigan, I know you're out there somewhere.
Thank you. Yep, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott, for this opportunity. Claude, what a pleasure to be here talking to you. You know, having been a gal that spent 20 years in the trenches of executive corporate America, people like you are so needed. So I wish you longevity and energy and everything over the next 20 years. And I hope that I'm counting on you making significant changes. My question for you is, you know, a lot of people on this call today are builders and leaders, and either they're building their own entrepreneurial small company, or they're in a bigger business and they're building teams. What do you look for in a direct report? What is if you could say the perhaps the most important quality, and then the next 2 and 3 behind that? What do you look for?
Yeah, that is a great question. So I look for courage. I really do. I look for courage, and courage to me means that you're willing to try and strike out, and you're willing to try and hit a base hit, and you're willing to try and maybe hit a home run. So I think that's the first thing. And the courage takes vulnerability to get up to the plate and take a swing. And I hope I'm the type of leader that will be there regardless of what you hit and if you don't hit at all. So that's really, really important to me. Communication, and not being afraid to just come and share with me what's going on so that I can be helpful, or I can just have enough data that enough information so you can continue to spread your wings and fly. Autonomy is really important, and I recognize that as a leader, I need to be giving that autonomy, or helping people understand that they can take it, because I will be as democratic as as all get out. You know, I don't want to smother people. And really a sense of identity. And so I'm not going to say empathy, and I'm not going to say, not even saying, if you notice, I don't even say EQ. I say a sense of identity and who they are, because if they have a sense of who they are, then I and other people can help shapeshift and help get them to be their greatest self, you know, especially the younger generations. And then hopefully that sense of identity allows them to start to get to know themselves and you know, want for themselves, and in wanting for themselves, they want for others too. So I hope
that's great. That is so great, because self-awareness is so important, and people are on different ends of the spectrum as to, you know, can you teach somebody self-awareness? Can you help them build that? And, you know, that answer, you know, tells me that you're very aware of the importance of it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Listen, I want to just say thank you for your shoulders that allow me to stand on them. So
you're welcome. You're a great person to give it to.
So one closing thing, you had mentioned courage, and one thing that I've heard you talk about before, you know, to have courage, you've got to overcome your fears, and you've talked about actually naming your fears. So can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yes, it's an everyday practice for me also. Yeah, so I always talk about, you know, naming your fears and then putting them in the back seat, and then you big Claude drives the bus is actually what I say. Yep. And so I think it really is important. Whether or not you can name your feelings is another story, but, you know, naming your fears and understanding kind of what I'm afraid of. So I'm afraid of disappointing Gary. All right, well, let me just like name that. I'm not the only person out there that is. And so if I'm afraid of disappointing Gary, I need to let him know that, but I need to know that myself. I need to be able to be like, okay, if I'm afraid of disappointing him, what are all the things I'm doing every single day that take up so much energy? If I would just say to him, hey, this is something that I don't know how to bring to you, but I'm going to bring it to you. If I allow myself to identify that I'm being a chicken, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean like I'm chickening out, then I can take it and then sit in the front seat and be big and just say like, hey, here I have some notes in front of me and I just need to have this conversation with you. You know, I'm giving you, a real transparent one that I work on. So I think that's really important. I think writing things down, whether or not it's on a whiteboard, I use my notes in my phone all day long, and I just get things out because if you name them, then you're not carrying them so much. You know, there's that saying, certainly in recovery, that is, you're only as sick as your secrets. And we all know what secrets can do to ourselves inside. So I want to be the healthiest that I can be. And I have to kick my ass time and time again to remind myself to like, get it out, get it out, get it out. And so I can move on. And so I can get on the wakeboard and get 3 feet.
Well, everyone I know has a super busy day. This has been incredible. A total honor, Claude. Your words of wisdom, I think, resonate with everybody. And there's got to be a couple books in there for you that need to be published ASAP. But guys, remember that while we're spending time with some amazing people, some incredibly accomplished people, we all have each other to lean on. We're all a resource to each other. We're just one big community. And that's been one of the really nice things about building this, is seeing people interact, whether it's doing business together or supporting each other in problem solving, things like that. But keep doing that, keep connecting. Because it really is all about relationships. And Claude, I think I speak for everybody in thanking you for giving us your time. Can't thank you enough. Love you to death.
Love you all. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your energy.
Thank you, Claude.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Megan, didn't you have somewhere to go?
He's gone.
She's gone. That's it.
Thank you, Scott.
Good question, Chris. Thank you, Di. Di, I like the backdrop. I mean, this looks like
Yeah.
you're in like a studio.
Join us on my porch.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks for organizing. Great.
Oh,
Really, really
my
good.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome.
I hope everybody enjoyed.
Toodles.
Yeah. Megan, are you back?
I'm back. I was like, did I hear a May?
Are you just going to sit in your car all day?
I think I might. I'm in the middle of East Texas someplace. So I'm like, I didn't want to be distracted. So here I am. I'm outside of a subway in Texas.
So my geography is terrible. How far are you from Sarah in Bowling Greens?
Like 8 hours.
8 hours. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a day. I got a day of driving.
So is that when you film your conversations together?
The videos that you do? I think she froze.
Yeah, she froze.
Yeah, that's what, like, we're still off of the ones from March that I see Rich on original. I think my connection stinks, doesn't it?
I wouldn't say
You
stinks.
said you're using some from March, so
Maybe not ideal.
Sorry. Yeah, I see Rich and Eliza, we're doing more recordings this week.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Megan, real quickly, I wanted to introduce you to Brianne. Brianne is brand new with us. She's in LA. She's amazing.
Awesome.
And
Nice
we talk
to meet
about
you.
you all the time.
It's wonderful to
Brianna,
meet you.
It's really nice to meet you. I'm happy for you to have found this group because it's really special. Scott and Kathy and the whole crew. It's like, these are like group of unicorns. You're like, I didn't know this existed. It's really great.
All right. When is the first podcast dropping?
August, sometime this month. So when BYLR launches, Who Is Your Mama launches.
Did you
I don't even know when that is.
picture of the llama?
Jesse...
I don't have a date for the launch. Supposedly, I think it's late August.
Okay.
So
I cannot wait.
I'm so ready for it to be out. I feel like I've talked it to death. I'm like, let's go.
So is your podcast coming out when Sarah's book is coming out?
It's so crazy. It's going to be close. I don't really know for Sarah how close it is. I mean, she's covered done. Like it is, and let me tell you, it is killer. It is so good.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. I don't know when the date is.
Oh, frozen.
For her, but it's gonna be.
You're breaking up, but you need to get on the road.
Relatively close, which is just crazy and amazing. I wish my connection were better. I can tell.
No.
So sorry.
Hit the road. Say hello to Sarah. Have fun, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, great to
Sounds
see
good.
you.
Thank you guys. Thank you both so much. Brianna, it was a pleasure to meet you. Sorry about my connection. You guys have the best day ever.
Wonderful to meet you, Megan.
Okay, take care.
There it is.
There we
Your
go.
First one in the books.
Did you like it?
Oh my gosh, like mind blown. I wish I had better words, but I don't. She is just phenomenal. Amazing.
It really was. She was really great.
And it worked out, it worked out. So everyone else that we've had on to date, they really they have a story.
Right.
And their story takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it really compresses the amount of time you have for questions. And Claude's so different. She doesn't, it's not that she doesn't have a story, but she's she's different from the other people we've had on. So it was much more conducive to kind of like, here's Claude, ask her a ton of questions because she's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was
So I
good.
thought that worked out well.
And her answers were interesting. I thought she was great.
Oh my gosh, her answers. I don't think there was one that didn't just almost make me cry, or I don't know, whatever. Like, she's just amazing human. So
Yeah, I mean, she gets off in 2 seconds. She sends me heart, a movie. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. She's just off the chart.
So nice.
Awesome.
Well, I'm so happy I got to be here for this. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
More to follow. All right. I'll talk to you in a bit. See ya.
Oh, okay. Bye.